The president is still pushing the grand bargain debt ceiling increase that reduces deficits by more than $4 trillion. But the prospect of tax increases on wealthier Americans and corporations remains a Republican deal breaker.
I don't want to preclude any chance of coming to an agreement, but they've been unwilling to put a real plan on the table.
Next Tuesday, House Republicans will vote for a more aggressive measure to cap future spending. It has no chance of passing the Senate, so Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is constructing a backup plan. It would enable President Obama to raise the debt ceiling incrementally without Republican approval. Many conservatives, especially House freshmen, aren't buying it.
The McConnell plan doesn't work. I wasn't elected to do nothing, to kick the can down the road, to wait for this president's term to end. I was brought here to do something and to do it now.
Now, there are no bipartisan debt limit talks scheduled for this weekend, but President Obama told congressional leaders to be on notice, ready to be called back to the White House if needed. Russ.
With Johnson at the White House. We'll see you later in the broadcast. For another perspective on the debt negotiations and what it will take to reach a deal, we turn to two members of Congress. Republican Marsha Blackburn is in Nashville, Tennessee, and Arizona Democrat Raúl Grijalva is in our Miami bureau. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Congressman Grijalva, I'll begin with you. It looks like a deal is no closer today than it was a week ago. In your opinion, what's holding up the process?
I think what's holding up the process is, and I agree with the president, that it's time we listen to the American public. American public is saying very clearly that they want essential programs, Social Security, Medicare, protected and enhanced for the future, and I believe firmly that can be done without sacrificing benefits and coverage for the American people that depend on these programs.
Representative
the American people are also saying they're also saying you need to roll back those Bush taxes, you need to get and cut back those corporate by overwhelming numbers. So if maybe the will of the American people would play a role, we could get to a deal.
Congresswoman Blackburn, let me ask you, do you agree with that assessment?
No, I do not agree with that. I think we have to realize we are not in this situation because the debt limit is too low. We're in this situation because we spend too much. And indeed, since this president took office, he has added $3.7 trillion to the national debt. The American people agree with us that it is time to cut the federal spending. It is time to cap it so that we never get into this situation again, and it is time for a balanced budget amendment. There is overwhelming public support for taking the approach that House conservatives are taking, and that is why we're pushing forward with it.
Well, Representative Blackburn, President Obama said yesterday the American people are on his side on this issue and compromise has to be made. What's your response to that?
I think that the most balanced plan that has been presented is the one House conservatives have brought forward. What we have said is, Mr. President, you may kick the can down the road. We are the buck stops here, Congress. We are willing to put our plan on the table, which is exactly what we have done. We are willing to work to make certain that we cut this out of control federal spending. They have spent $7.3 trillion since the president took office. We are borrowing 40 cents of every dollar. And you know, it doesn't matter if it is Democrat or Republican. It is too much spending. It is time to stop it.
Representative Grijalva, let me bring you back into this just for a second. Let me ask you something. At the end of the day, could you support a plan that includes no tax increases on the wealthy?
No, I think that we're in this fiscal mess because of 10 years of precisely those tax policies and those fiscal policies. And when we talk about spending, there's front door spending that we need to do and have done with earned benefits like Social Security. Then there's backdoor spending that is also spending of government dollars, subsidies for big gas and big oil. The tax cuts to the richest 2%. That is taxpayer money that is being spent. The definition of spending has to be broadened here. Well, otherwise, the rules of engagement for compromise will never exist.
Representative Blackburn, go ahead.
Yes, if I may point out something, please. With the passage of Obamacare, it was the Democrats and the president that took $575 billion out of that program. Now we have a program that is too expensive to afford. It is an imperative that we put these spending issues, and every economist, whether they're liberal or conservative, every ratings agency says what we have to see from the Congress of the United States is a plan for how to deal with this out-of-control federal spending.
Representative Grijalva, 10 seconds for you, Representative Grijalva.
$575 billion that were part of the health plan, and in the Ryan budget, Ryan took complete credit that as a deficit reduction. Find it interesting. Ryan's budget that was passed by every Republican in the House is $6 trillion added to the debt.
We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem.
All right. We're seeing an example of what's going on Capitol Hill. Representative Raúl Grijalva and Representative Marsha Blackburn. Something tells me we'll be talking about this for quite a bit. We thank you both for joining us this morning. It is 7 after the hour. Here's Rebecca.
Russ, thank you. We're now taking a look at the political implications of these drawn-out debt talks, and for that, we turn to CBS News political analyst John Dickerson. He is in our Washington bureau. John, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Rebecca.
And we begin with a Quinnipiac poll that came out yesterday that says 67% of Americans believe that this deal, the debt limit raise deal, should include tax hikes. Who do you think is going to get blamed here then, with Republicans saying no way, if this thing doesn't work with tax limits, or rather tax hikes in it?
Well, it depends. The question is whether the American people are really paying attention to the shape of the deal, whether they're not, paying more attention to their job picture or their summer vacations. And so in the end here, it depends how this deal finally comes out. It does look like Republicans hold the position that in the national polls does not look like they have a lot of support. But for them to pay a real political price, it has to be the president or another prominent Democrat who really pushes the case. And if the president doesn't push the case on Republicans, I think the American people are likely to go back to their number one concern, which is the economy, and not get fixated on the specific deals of this debt limit negotiation.